Regulators, mount up.
Hey everybody, Lewis here, Rshackbbq and other things. So this video, I'm actually going to be attempting to work on my Pitboss Copperhead vertical smoker. What I want to do is I want to replace the controller on it to a digital PID controller. So, so you know, these cookers, I'm going to flip this camera around. Okay, so these cookers are really good. I love the cabinet style. Of course, I got the cover on it. But they have horrible temperature swings with that controller. So I bought a better controller. I'm going to attempt to install it on it, and we'll see what happens. But I got to get it over there into the shop first. So let's get moving it. Okay, here's the new controller I ordered. It's a Danson Digital Control Center G3. They use these on Louisiana Grills, which is a sister company to Pitboss. This here is just a plastic cover on it. That's why it looks like that. If you order this, it just comes with the controller and the motherboard. As you can see, let's see here. It's got one main plug versus having a bunch of different, but it does say motor, fan, and igniter labeled there for the different plugs. Then you have your hot. Then over here, you've got a couple plugs that are for probe. You have a switch right here for Fahrenheit and Celsius. I went ahead and ordered the wiring harness for it. Just in case I needed to. We might end up having to cut into these wires in the Pitboss one, the vertical. I also ordered a new probe temp, which should connect to these two connectors here. It didn't come with the wiring schematics, but I did go on Danson's website, Louisiana Grills, and was able to download it so you know what each connector is. So here you can see right here you've got your connector that's going in with all the wires. You got your power, your fan, and it does say blue, white, and then you have your igniter, white, and it's red and white on the actual connector. So that would be like, well, let's just see. I'm sorry for the videoing, but red, white right there, that's your igniter rod. And then you have your digital center, which is that actual board. And they've got brown going out to your grill probe, which is that thing, which is over here. So we'll get the Pitboss one taken off. I have the original manual for the Pitboss, and I bookmarked it. Here is their wiring diagram schematics of their control board. It's color coded as far as the wires. Like right here it says WW, that's white. Then it comes up to purple white. Goes into the motor for some reason, comes out, or I guess that must be your hot. Then up here you have your temperature probe. They show two connectors, but it goes into one. And then you have your power. So yeah, we will get this controller off and compare the two. Okay, so if we come around the back, you notice that this is just loose. It's held by a couple of screws. I'm going to take these rails off, this heat shield off. I may disconnect the front. I'm not sure, but we'll start by getting these rails and this heat deflector. There's nothing down here off, and we'll go from there. It's got a little heat deflector right here. I'll probably take it off. This is the downspout for your drain. Might as well take all that off. There's only 2 screws, one here and one here. There's supposed to be, there's one there. This one came out at some time. Probably get a new screw for that because it's loose. But let's just see what happens. Okay, I got Manuel. Let's see if we can undo this. There it goes. And let's just come in here. Go ahead and take this one. Okay, so now we have the front cover off. So this is obviously a ground for the power. Might give us a little more room if we took that off. Just have to do this here. So what I'm going to do, it's got a little lock washer underneath. I'm just going to take it off. And we'll just put this right back in its hole. There. So now we got that down and out of the way. Figure out how to get this off of here. Okay, there's 4 screws right here. See what happens if I So there you can see, if my hand wasn't in the way, the wiring. So on these older ones, they're not clipped on, they're soldered on. So once you do this, it's over. You know, you can't, I mean, you could resolder it on there, but you're gonna have to clip those and then put connectors on them. And then you better know what you're disconnecting there. So take a good picture of this. It looks like things are somewhat labeled in there. Like this red one says motor, and then this yellow one says fan, purple one says firebox, and then now this is power here coming in. Yeah, that's power. And you got your ground. So we'll have to look and see what these are. I'm going to get a good picture of this so I have a reference once I start snipping these. Okay, I went ahead and took this wiring harness here off so I could see, and you can see all the connectors are right there, and they have their power looping off of one going into each one. So here is the new wiring harness, where I think we can make our connections in here. I'll undo these zip ties they have on here to give me a little more slack. There's a couple, 3 on there. I'll probably undo and see what we can get to. All right, so what I've done is I've kind of labeled these. Like I put a P for purple, a W for white. It's kind of hard to tell on that. Let's see. There I put red, white as what's coming in on this side. You got the red one and then you got white. Here, this one has 2 whites coming in and a yellow. So I'll know once I drop that board where these wires went and which ones they connected to. This is obviously going into, that's your temp probe right there. This is obviously going in, I think that's into your fire pot right there. This is probably the auger. And then of course you got your fan. So I don't think I need to take it any farther apart. I just need to figure out if my connectors will work with these, and if I need to get adapters. So here we go. Okay, so this is the old wiring harness. This is the new. And what you see is we've got 1, 2, 3 white, which would be your power coming in. Over here we have one coming in, and then it jumps from each one of those connectors. So what I'm thinking about doing is I'll snip back here, reuse these connectors, and get the female sides for these to fit into the different ones. And then I'll have my 3 powers, and then I'll have my color codes for the controls. And I'll be able to just plug those controllers right back into the standard ones. Haven't figured out what I'm going to do about the actual probe inside the unit, which is the brown. It is a different connector than what this one has. This is the connector here. It's a different style. It's a 2-wire. I could probably, once again, save this this piece here, cut it back, and get pieces that'll fit that from the store, so I can just plug this right into this and then connect it back on there. So got a little shopping to do, but I think I got it. Okay, so here, as you can see, I've got the red and the white hooked back up. I've got my new connectors on it. Same way with the yellow and the white right there. And then we have our white and purple right there with the connectors. And then we also have our probe hooked up too. So now all I gotta do is figure out the schematics on the new wiring harness and get the connectors put on that'll match the other end. Okay, here's the new board. I've got it all connected. Got the wires all re-established with new connectors that will connect to the old ones. So now it's just matching up the connections to the Pitboss, and we'll see if this board fires up. Okay. This is the power cord. So let's look at our schematics. The fan board is blue-white. For the old board is yellow-white. So, and it shows, it's just, there's our yellow-white. Let's try white to white. And blue to yellow. Then for the actual motor, for the old controller, it is red, white. There's red, white. And for the new controller, it's yellow, white. So let's connect the yellow to the red and white to the white. The igniter, which is purple, white. And on the new one, it is red, white. That's the power. There's the red, white. Let's go red to purple. And white to white. Then brown, brown is our probe, which is red, black. For these, it's not as critical. So we'll just hook those two up, like so. All right, so the only other thing we got left is our power, which is right here. Here is our power. Let's hook that up. Something like that. There's our controller. The last thing that we want to do for right now is we'll just hook up the ground. So this is the ground. that on there good and secure. So as it stands right now, we should have power. I'm going to flip this up and we'll power it on and see what happens. All right, let's plug it in. Heard a beep. We'll see if it's getting hot. We'll set it at 200. Okay, it's been about a minute actually, and you can actually see that the igniter is working. We're starting to get smoke, so I think I've got it wired up right. The only other thing that I need to do is figure out how I'm going to mount this controller on this body. I'll have to make a little piece of sheet metal to hold it there, but yeah, we've got smoke, we've got temp, and we'll have to see how accurate it is once I put a probe in it. So at least it's working. Step one done. Okay, there we got a makeshift plate on there to hold the controller on there. You see what I did in the back. I have one hole here that I screwed up on. But now we'll get this mounted back in there and we'll hook up the wires. Okay, there's the new controller all mounted on there with the faceplate I made. And drilled one hole too off position, but that's all right. So you see here I've got 2 bolts underneath. Show you what that's for. When we come around, you see I made this custom heat shield plate. The motherboard sits down there behind it, all the wiring goes in there. You have the stock heat shield, it's right there. And then these 2 brackets are for your grease tray, and that's where your grease comes out, or your ash. Got the heat shield vents, everything's back in where it belongs. It's time to stand it up and see what happens. Okay, we got her all put back together. Time to just plug her in and see what she does. So you'll notice I don't have the heat shield in there or the grease pan. We'll just let her come up to temp and see what happens here. There's the new controller. Let's let this sit and ride for a bit. Starting to smell. Seeing some smoke come up. We got flame. do is we'll close it up. See how fast she runs up to temp. So now it's got a probe. And at 21, 28. Probe in here. Alright, one of the big issues I had is when I cooked up at high. So right now I kicked it up to 300. And we're going to let it go and see how it sits right there as it's starting to climb up to get up to 300. We'll let it go. Okay, we've hit 300 on our actual. Have our set point at 300. Our probe says it's 200. We'll just let it sit there. See how well it maintains 300. Check back in a minute. Okay, every time I come over here, the actual's sitting right at 300. See, I have it set at 300. And the actual's running at 300. Says 216, but not too worried about that. Yeah. So that's where the probe is set. Let's get it back on the grill. There we go, 300 set point. Actual 300, just sitting right there.